Hey there, so you're thinking about moving to Boise, Idaho, but you're pretty sure you don't want to be right in the city. Or maybe you're just trying to wrap your head around all the cities that make up the Treasure Valley and are currently in that
I am up for anything
bucket, which really means you just don't know yet, and that's okay. And well, you've come to the right place. We completely get that there is a lot to explore and just a huge variety of options and areas that you will want to know about prior to making that decision to move to the area. Because, well, some areas in the Treasure Valley might fit you perfectly, whereas others, not so much. You might find yourself packing up and bouncing back to wherever it is that you are currently considering moving here from. And you don't want that, and we don't want that for you. So in this video, we are going to be touring you through the town of Caldwell. If you're looking for something quieter with more of a down home, small town America feel and vibe, but you also want to be within or need to be within a decent commute to the city of Boise, then come with us as we cruise about 25 miles west of Boise to the charming little town of Caldwell, Idaho. By the end of this video, not only will you really have a feel for what living in Caldwell is really like, but you'll also be privy to some big potential cons and drawbacks that have, in the past, sent newcomers running the other way.
It's not for me.
Because yes, while Caldwell is a great place for so many to call home, for others, not so much. And that's totally fine. Our goal with this video, just like all of our videos, is to give you a candid, on-the-ground overview so you can wrap your head around whether Caldwell would be a good fit for you. So let's break it all down right now.
Right now.
Yes.
Okay, so to kick things off, let's pull up a map of Caldwell so you can see exactly where it is located and also how it is positioned in relation to Boise, as well as in relation to all the other towns and suburbs that make up the Treasure Valley. As you can see, Caldwell is located about 30 to 35 minutes from downtown Boise. And then it's about 20 to 25 from Meridian, and then just about 10 to 15 from the city of Nampa. So on this map, well, it actually looks like our starting points and ending points are going to the opposite tip of each city. And both Caldwell and Nampa are pretty spread out towns. So in this map, it looks like the two towns are farther apart than they actually are. So just know that any local would tell you you can get to Caldwell from Nampa in just about 10 minutes. And then Caldwell is also pretty close to Middleton. That drive takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Caldwell is also located just about half an hour away from the Oregon state line. So for some who like to make Ontario runs for whatever purpose, to shop without sales tax perhaps, or whatever the case may be, that can be handy. Okay, so now let's first dive into some reasons people love living in Caldwell. First up, let's talk about home prices. Straight out, one thing that draws people out to Caldwell is that, well, homes are typically more affordable. Compared to what you find in Boise, Meridian, and then certainly in Eagle, homes are just flat out less expensive. If you compare home prices in Caldwell to those in any of the other cities that fall into the neighboring and larger county of Ada, and now Ada is the county that Boise falls into, as well as the cities of Meridian, Eagle, Star, and Kuna. Well, homes in Caldwell are in comparison
Cheaper.
And then if you compare Caldwell home prices to any of the other towns that fall into its county, which is Canyon County, and Canyon County includes Nampa, Middleton, Parma, and Melba. Well, there again, home prices are typically less expensive in Caldwell. Okay, so if you're curious to see what the median sales price is right now for Caldwell, as well as the other Treasure Valley towns, check this out. Boom. Yep. As you can see, homes in Caldwell are consistently just flat out more affordable than any other Treasure Valley town. And if you're a numbers nerd, and no judgment, takes one to know one.
Nerd?
So if you're wondering why I am going with the median sales price instead of the average sales price, I'm showing you the median because it obviously represents the price in the very middle of the range. So it isn't skewed by any crazy outlandish prices or just freak home sales, but instead it shows you what's right in the middle. So therefore, it's really a better representation of what is currently normal in our, well, our very abnormal housing market. Okay, so now let's talk about what kinds of homes you will find in Caldwell. Not only are they less expensive, but well, move over shoebox homes on itty bitty lots. In Caldwell, many find that they can afford a decent sized home situated on a spacious lot. So that on its own is obviously a big pull for many. Yay for having ample space for all your toys and, I don't know, your collection of quirky little garden gnomes or whatever it may be. You will probably have room for it in Caldwell. Just flat out, most find that they can just get more bang for their buck out here. And my goodness, for some, especially if they've been feeling just kind of defeated by the home prices that they've seen in, say, Eagle or Star, they sometimes get out to Caldwell and find themselves just sighing in relief over what they find they can afford.
We can afford that.
On that note, people are also often surprised by the variety of housing options that they find in Caldwell. We've found that for whatever reason, people often think that there will pretty much just be trailer parks or that it will be all pretty much ranches and farmland. And while, yes, you will certainly find both of those, there's also a lot more variety to check out than you might initially expect. So you'll find 3,000 square foot plus single family homes on larger lots, and also more stately homes situated on sprawling acreage. And then there's also maintenance-free condos, as well as brand new builds in well planned out communities. Let's quickly take a peek at Caldwell's historic area of town. Here we are in Steunenberg District. The Steunenberg District is actually said to be one of the most historically intact neighborhoods in all of Idaho. It has right around 330 residential homes, and yeah, it just has that special kind of charm that you really only find in historic areas with deep, deep roots. I actually didn't even know this district existed for the first several years we lived here. Granted, I wasn't into real estate yet, and I hadn't spent much time in Caldwell. I had to run to the grocery store to pick something up for a barbecue my husband's brother, Bo, was hosting. And, well, I got a little lost. Because, yeah, that was way back when we didn't have smartphones and instant navigation. Weird, right?
How did you do it?
Anyhow, while I was trying to figure out where in the heck I was startled by where I found myself. I remember calling Andy from my handy dandy little flip phone and saying, "Holy cow, did you know that there's a really cool historic neighborhood and district right in Caldwell?" And, well, of course he did, because he's Andy. But it really surprised and impressed me at the time. So just know that in Caldwell, there are a lot of housing options, and that's both in regard to architectural styles and price points. Next up, let's talk about the community vibe and atmosphere.
This is Carla. She's real friendly.
Move over, big city bouginess. Caldwell welcomes you with open arms, cowboy boots, and deep fried pickles. Caldwell's community vibe and atmosphere are just pretty darn hard to resist. While Caldwell has certainly experienced significant growth over the past decade, and certainly over the past several years, that warm and welcoming vibe is still very eminent and strong. While it's definitely pretty blue collar, it's also got this really endearing mix of that old style go west cowboy meets country chic vibe to it. You'll find both cowboy boots, overalls, and tractors, as well as designer jeans and Louis Vuittons. It's a pretty fun mix, and it's often sometimes very surprising mix, to say the least. So last thing I will say on this one, while it's a pretty darn friendly place to call home, well, you want to swap out your out-of-state license plate pretty much as soon as you get done moving here? Well, yes, you will. Do that.
With California license plates!
Next big pro, and then we will dive into the first big potential con that I want you to know about. I'm going to go over 7 of them in this video. Let's talk about what living in Caldwell is like for outdoor enthusiasts. If you're looking for wide open space and just love nature, well, then Caldwell might charm you.
You sure about that?
Okay, well, let me clarify. If you are driving into Caldwell from I-84, which is most likely the route you will take the first time you visit Caldwell, yeah, you're not going to be thinking, wow, what an outdoor lover's dream, because, well, it's very industrial and just, well, I'll just say it's pretty darn ugly. Its initial appearance certainly doesn't scream, this town has an abundance of outdoor recreation. But, well, that said, what surprises most to discover is just how much that is easily accessible just outside of the main area. And of course, that is increasingly surprising after what you see when you first drive in to the city of Caldwell and there's that weird industrial montage. Living in Caldwell will mean you will have access to some great hiking and biking trails. So whether you're looking for an easy walking trail or a bike trail like the Stoddard Pathway or Weiser River Trail, Caldwell has access to a number of great trails that cover just around 130 miles. Or if you are a big gun person, they have numerous shooting ranges very close by, as well as the Caldwell Archery Range. And then if your idea of enjoying the great outdoors includes water sports, well then Caldwell just touches the very popular and also pretty massive reservoir called Lake Lowell. While the majority of Lake Lowell actually falls into the city of Nampa's city limits, it's considered by many Caldwell locals as being their lake too, because, well, it's right at their fingertips and just pretty great in its own right. Built by the Bureau of Reclamation to provide ag irrigation water to Canyon County residents, this 14.5 square mile reservoir that covers more than 28 miles of shoreline and is tucked right into the Deer Flat National Wildlife Refuge, it's just a definite favorite for many. As you can imagine, boating, fishing, jet skiing, birdwatching, really all of the things are right here and easy to get to. My husband Andy and our youngest son Gus love waking up crazy early to head out to spend the day fishing. Bass fishing is huge here, and so is evening catfishing. I tend to let Andy run the show in that department, which he and both of my boys love. And then another outdoor activity that I would be remiss to skip: if you golf, you will likely be pretty happy with the golf courses available right in and right outside of Caldwell. In fact, even if you decide not to make Caldwell your home, if you are a golfer, you will likely find yourself driving out to Caldwell to check out their courses. In Caldwell, they have 2 courses right within the city limits, and then one, the Fairview Golf Course. It's actually right in the heart of the downtown area. And then there's also Timberstone. It's a bit further to the west. Timberstone is my husband Andy's absolute favorite in Caldwell, and probably in his top 3, maybe I should say top 5, just to be on the safe side. I'll confirm it with him, but across the entire Treasure Valley. They offer a great full club fitting service and have just an all-around awesome course.
Ask Andy.
I did.
Okay, so just in case you're wondering, I did confirm it with Andy that Timberstone is among his top 3 favorites in the Treasure Valley. And well, golf is pretty much in Andy's blood, so that's saying something. Last thing I want to mention on this one, let's talk about all of Caldwell's amazing wineries. This is one that surprises most when they come to check out the Treasure Valley. And again, considering what Caldwell looks like when most people first drive into it, yeah, it's not typically something most expect to discover. That said, Caldwell's fantastic soil, ideal altitude, and all that abundant sunshine are apparently pretty darn perfect for growing and harvesting grapes.
Oh, cheers to that!
It's got quite a large number of nationally awarded and recognized wineries to choose from. There's St. Chapelle, Sawtooth, Bitner, Vineyards, Hat Ranch Winery. Gosh, there's a lot. I will put a list in the description of this video if you are curious to check them all out. Personally, one of my absolute favorites is St. Chapelle. They have live outdoor music just about every single weekend throughout the warmer months. So we swing by Trader Joe's, pack a picnic basket, and then we just show up, throw out our picnic blankets, and enjoy the live music and awesome atmosphere. My boys get their faces painted and play games. It's really the best. And they also have an amazing annual Mother's Day event that we rarely miss because, well, it is my day after all, right? We go to church and then we head straight to the winery. Again, it's my day.
Mother's Day? Crap!
So if you love live music, open air, and vino, and would just like to enjoy them all in a gorgeous country setting, St. Chapelle's will definitely be something you'll want to check out. I'll include a link in the video description that will take you directly to their events page. Okay, so now let's dive into a con. And this is one that I have seen and heard other agents in the area talk about, and one that, well, I just don't think we should be sugarcoating this one. Let's talk about Caldwell's crime rate. Now, before I dive into this, when it comes to talking about crime and safety rates, I do have to quickly disclose, as well as just really encourage you to do your own research on this oh so important topic. For this video, I am looking at neighborhoodscout.com and niche.com, both of which I will link to in the description. So these are just 2 of the many resources that are available right online for you to use to research crime and safety ratings at the local level. And well, just straight out, Caldwell typically sees a crime rate that is 93% higher than the rest of Idaho's cities and towns. And that 93 stat is from Neighborhood Scout, if you are curious. While the state of Idaho as a whole is deemed as being one of the safest states in our nation, well, city of Caldwell currently isn't really helping us maintain that rate.
Just do your part.
Now, of course, this is subjective and your take on it will largely depend on where you are currently coming from and therefore what you're going to be comparing it to. For our clients who just flip out over Caldwell, which is, just talking size-wise, a pretty large area. It covers almost 23 square miles. So yeah, there are a lot of spots and a lot of variety there. And we know a lot of Caldwell residents who absolutely love where they live and they sleep well at night. But well, we'd be sure we were researching it very carefully right alongside of you to ensure that you find a spot that you'll be happy with for years to come. Now, let's talk about Caldwell's entertainment options, or rather the lack thereof. Living in Caldwell will mean your entertainment options will be, well, limited.
There is nothing to do.
Now, of course, your perspective on this will depend on where you're coming from and therefore what you're comparing it to. If, say, you're considering moving to Caldwell from, I don't know, Prairie City, Oregon, which is where I was born and raised, well then, you'll likely find that there's so much to do.
There's just so many options.
And by so much, I mean, yeah, they've got movie theaters, the Wittenberger Planetarium, parks, museums, the Indian Creek Plaza, and of course the Caldwell Night Rodeo, which is one of the most popular rodeos across the state. It happens every summer and is definitely a hit. They've got bull riding, barrel racing, steer wrestling, and really all of it. And then there's also a carnival happening with plenty of fair food, of course, and live music. That said, that's once a year. So if you are the type of person that wants to be going to Shakespeare in the Park throughout the play season,
Can I say, I love the theater.
or maybe you want to have a large number of nightclubs that you can bounce, back and forth from, well, living in Caldwell would mean you'd be hopping onto the freeway or calling an Uber to travel to another city. This one is obviously completely dependent on your personality and what you're looking for. Now, let's talk about a positive and something many Caldwell residents just love. Let's talk about all that fresh produce. With its strong agricultural heritage and just miles and miles of crops and fields, it's hard not to just feel like, yeah, I'm ready to embrace my inner farmer girl. There are fresh vegetables and fruits pretty much available right at your doorstep. And so that, of course, makes it pretty easy to put fresh produce on the table, season permitting, of course. If you haven't heard yet of J.R. Simplot, if you make Idaho your home, you certainly will. J.R. Simplot was, and his family remains to this day, one of the biggest leaders in the ag business here in the state of Idaho. While he dropped out of school at the age of 14 when he was in 8th grade, he dropped out to start his own business, which, well, he did, and he did it very well because he went on to become a world leader in the industry and is now a multi-billionaire, or rather, his family remains multi-billionaires. And I think it was 1941, sometime in the early 1940s, he built a dehydrator and began dehydrating large quantities of, any guesses? This is Idaho, so yep, potatoes. And he did that all right here in Caldwell. If you're curious to know more, I will put a link in the description of this video for you to check out. Okay, so now let's cover another potential con. Let's talk about healthcare. While Caldwell as a whole is pretty self-contained and they've got a decent variety of basic healthcare providers, so you'll have dentists, dermatologists, health clinics, chiropractors, and wellness centers, and they do have a West Valley Medical Center, that is the only hospital within the city limits. To get to another larger major hospital, you would need to travel outside of the city limits. That said, due to how Caldwell is positioned in relation to I-84, and I-84 is pretty much key to getting anywhere in the Treasure Valley quickly, the drive to get to other major hospitals really wouldn't be too bad.
How far away are we talking about?
Again, I guess that's all a matter of perspective. Your closest would be St. Luke's or St. Al's in Nampa, and both of those would take right around 15 minutes. So again, this one is completely subjective and really comes down to just how close you and or your family would prefer or need to be to a major hospital. So now this is one that we have definitely seen cause newcomers to bounce. Let's talk about Caldwell's weather. Living in Caldwell would mean you would undeniably find yourself on some temperature roller coasters with 4 distinct seasons and what some deem as being extreme temperature variations throughout the year. Caldwell isn't for everybody. It has a semi-arid climate characterized by hot, dry summers and cold, snowy winters. The temperatures typically always reach the triple digits in the summer, making it uncomfortably hot for some residents. Those hot summer days have people scrambling to Lake Lowell for some relief. And then don't blink because, well, here comes winter, which can sometimes, honestly, no joke, feel like it happens on the same day that you could have sworn it was summer.
Why is it so cold?
Temperatures can drop well below freezing, leading to icy roads and sometimes hazardous road conditions. So these extreme weather fluctuations can pose challenges for those who just prefer milder, more consistent weather, or just for people who flat out have a hard time adapting to such dramatic and out-of-the-blue seasonal changes. And then again, on the other side, some people find that they absolutely love the variety.
I absolutely love.
So your take on this will be entirely up to you. Okay, so now let's talk about public transportation. Walking shoes, activate. Caldwell might not have a subway or much of an established transportation system, but that doesn't seem to slow residents down too much from getting from point A to B. Most people have their own vehicles, which is good because public transportation across the valley is pretty darn limited. Now, of course, just like so many things, this one is subjective and depends on where you're coming from and therefore what you're comparing it to. But if you can't drive or just flat out don't want to, you may want to take some time to explore other areas that have more bus routes and that are just closer to whatever amenities you want or need. I should point out that Caldwell does have Valley Regional Transit, and this is definitely an option that can typically get people pretty darn close to their destination. And they can do so pretty darn affordably. According to their website, which I will put a link to in the video description, an adult one-way ride ticket is $1.50, and then an all-day pass is $2.50. So, price-wise, you can't really beat it. But the issue we have heard voiced is really in regard to the amount of time it takes and the somewhat limited number of routes available. So just a heads up on that one. Okay, so now let's tackle con number 6. Let's talk about schools in Caldwell. In Caldwell, they have 2 districts. They have Valley View and then the Caldwell District. Looking up several schools through the greatschools.org website, well, it paints a pretty bleak outlook on the public school situation in Caldwell. With that said, just like with crime and safety ratings, I have to disclose and certainly want to encourage you to do your own research and then come to your own conclusions. In general, though, again, looking at the greatschools.org website, test scores seem to be below the national average, and the class sizes are larger with the student per teacher ratio pretty high above the average. I should point out, though, that there are some alternative options available in the area. There are several charter schools with great reputations. They are unsurprisingly in very high demand, all typically with wait lists and sometimes very long wait lists. So if you identify Caldwell as being the place you want to be, just be prepared that you will likely, assuming you have school-aged children, be doing a bit of research to find the perfect fit for your family and your kiddos. And you might find yourself being added to a wait list or commuting to a neighboring city. Okay, so now let's move on to potential con number 7. Let's talk about employment. As you would likely guess, the job market in Caldwell, Idaho is relatively limited. And that's certainly true if you are comparing it to, say, Boise or Meridian. As you know, Caldwell is a smaller city within the Boise metro area. And while it has seen significant growth over recent years, it just flat out, well, it doesn't offer the same range of jobs and careers that many of its neighboring cities and towns do. That said, this one will obviously be dependent on you and what your career, trade, or skill set is. Over the past several years, we have definitely seen many people move out to Caldwell with remote jobs and or jobs with the industrial companies that I so rudely referred to at the beginning of this movie as being the ugly area of Caldwell. But heck, just because the buildings aren't exactly visually pleasing, that certainly doesn't mean they wouldn't be great places to work. So just know for this one that if you decide to make Caldwell your home, the job market might be slightly more challenging than you initially expect. Or you might find yourself commuting to a neighboring city. Again, though, totally dependent on you and your unique situation. So there you have it, folks. Caldwell, Idaho, where the grass is green, unless it isn't. The people are super friendly, the wine is delicious, and Ariat Boots dance with Jimmy Choos. If you found this video helpful and would like to see future tours of areas across the Treasure Valley, please hit that subscribe button and tap that little bell so that you'll be notified when those videos come out. And then if you have any questions, big or small, about Caldwell or any of the cities that make up the Treasure Valley, please don't hesitate to give us a call or shoot us a text. We are here and would love to be your boots on the ground until we can actually get them here for you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.